The Washington Commanders and scary Terry McLaurin are in extension talks. But the question is, how deserving is he of a possible $100 million extension? Very. And we're going to take a look at what is the current state of the wide receiver room in Washington. Come on, join me next on Washington Football Maniacs. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again, aka B Scott, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. The Washington Commanders and scary Terry McLaurin are in extension talks, and he is in line for $100 million extension. And what is the current state of the wide receiver room in Washington, and where could they add, or are they good for right now? Intriguing. Let's talk about it. All right, first things first, and I'm going to read a report. This is an article through heavy.com. All right, and it's titled Commanders GM Talks Possible $100 million Contract Extension for True Leader. And quote unquote, it says, for years, the Washington Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin built a reputation as one of the NFL's best wide receivers on one of the worst teams. Not anymore. They ain't looking too shabby last year. For the first 5 seasons of his career, McLaurin averaged 1,056 receiving yards per season, including career lows of 58 receptions for 919 yards as a rookie in 2019. Each year, his team has seemed to get worse. Then, 2024 happened. Paired with rookie quarterback and NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels, McLaurin led the Commanders with 82 receptions for 1,096 yards and a franchise record 13 touchdowns on the way to earning NFL All-Pro honors for the first time in his career. The Commanders went 12-5, advanced to NFL our NFC Championship game, that is, for the first time since 1991. Good Lord. And had the first winning season with McLaurin on the roster. So the question is, how deserving is he of a possible $100 million extension? And I would say very, very, very deserving because, number one, he's been with his team when they were the Washington Redskins, then the Washington football team, and now the Washington Commanders. He has gone through so many different coordinators. He's gone through so many different quarterbacks, and he still produced. Now, did he produce up to his potential? No. Why? Because he had journeyman quarterbacks. He went through so many different quarterbacks, so many different coordinators, and never really had the time to adjust to one system or one quarterback and build that chemistry like he did with Jaden Daniels. And now with Jaden Daniels at the helm as being the franchise quarterback of the present and of the future, you're going to see Terry McLaurin get the most out of his potential because, look, he's 30 years old, but he still get better. In my opinion, he can still kick it into another gear. So, yes, he is very deserving of a possible $100 million contract because, again, look at what he's gone through. He's gone through the Dan Snyder era. He's gone through all the mess behind the scenes and all the lawsuits, all of the, all the negativity associated with Dan Snyder and this franchise. And again, different coordinators, different quarterbacks. He's gone through it all, and he's produced. And if he had a steady franchise quarterback beyond or before the previous season, then you could argue he would have been playing at an all-pro level the whole time. So like I said, he produced. Obviously, he didn't produce to the level that we expect because of so many different factors that we already talked about, but much deserving. And like I said, I definitely hope they get it ironed out soon because he needs to be here for the long run. When you think of Washington Commanders, the first name that needs to pop in your head needs to be Terry McLaurin because he's been through the thick and thin with his franchise. And like I said, now he has that franchise quarterback. And I'm very excited to see what he does next season. Now, what does the wide receiver room look like real quick? Now, this is the depth chart currently through ESPN.com. So, obviously, Terry McLaurin, our number one. He is the number one. And he is definitely the undisputed number one wide receiver in Washington. Now, Deebo Samuel. Like I said, we already covered his trade, the pros and cons, but where do they play him? And right now, they have him opposite of Terry McLaurin. Now, is that the best fit? Now, can Deebo Samuel play opposite of Terry McLaurin? Yes. He can play the inside, he can play the outside, but I think the best spot for him would be in the slot. Because I think with his capabilities to not only play on the outside, play on the inside, become a de facto running back, a guy who can definitely get active in screens, Cliff Kingsbury can use him as a Swiss Army knife. And I think the best spot for him would be in the slot. Noah Brown, obviously, long term, you want to add, you want to upgrade the number 2 wide receiver position. But I think that Noah Brown showed enough last year that he could definitely hold it down for at least one more season. And Noah Brown, like I said, is a very intriguing guy because, like I said, he played well. Now, do you have to kind of tether your expectations? No, he's not an all-pro caliber wide receiver, but he did his job. And that's all you can ask for in a wide receiver in Noah Brown. But let's take a look at the depth real quick, because who's behind Scary Terry, Debo, and Noah Brown? Well, right now they have Michael Gallup at the fourth wide receiver. You know, and then Luke McCaffrey at the fifth receiver. Now, yeah, I mean, you can argue that Luke McCaffrey has probably the bigger upside because he is younger. But then don't forget that he is a converted quarterback, so he's still learning the insides and outs of being a pro wide receiver. So I have no problem with that right now, even though I do think that Luke McCaffrey will get better. Michael Gallup, did take a year off. Can he still produce? Yes, but I think we'll get a clear indicator more once we get into training camp and preseason and really getting the nitty gritty of what can he provide here in DC, being a former Cowboy. And then you got KJ Osborne as the sixth receiver. Now the question is, do they and they have Chris Moore seventh. So realistically, right now as it stands, they could go six receivers, but the shoo-ins to make the roster right now is obviously Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel, Noah Brown, Michael Gallup, and Luke McCaffrey. Do you want to kind of see KJ Osborne and Chris Moore maybe battle it out for the sixth spot? Absolutely. But like I said, this is probably what you're looking for going into the season. Now, could they pick up a wide receiver in the draft? Absolutely. Absolutely. And plug him as the number two wide receiver opposite Scary Terry. I wouldn't be against that because, even if they sign Scary Terry to a long-term extension, and depending on what performance you get from Debo Samuel and whether or not they decide to extend him, which if he has a good season, they probably will. You still need a future wide receiver, man. I mean, a young wide receiver, and I would have no problem with them adding some size. Nothing against Noah Brown, man, but I would like to see some size. I would definitely like to see the Commanders go into the draft, get a 6'5" receiver, 6'4", 6'5", a taller guy, a more physical receiver. They definitely, add more capabilities to his offense. We need more physicality on the other side, opposite Scary Terry. Scary Terry can obviously hit those long routes. He's more of a body catcher. But like I said, Scary Terry, he definitely needs some help. And while I'm not against Noah Brown being the number two, if you have a chance to add a receiver who could definitely be that number two, not only for the present but for the future, I'm all for it. Because Noah Brown, whether he's the two or the number four, that's not a bad wide receiver group, man. Even if you got Gallup at the fifth and Luke McCaffrey as the sixth, that's not a bad wide receiver situation. So you guys get in the comment section. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Would you like to add a wide receiver through the draft or the wide receiver room as it stands? Are you cool with that? Yes or no? Why and why not? All right, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and call it tonight. And like I said, once we get closer to the draft, because it is coming up, me and my co-host, the immaculate Greg Sykes, we're definitely gonna get into every position group that we need upgrades. Look at all the prospects, and like I said, we're gonna put a lot more content out as far as covering the pre-draft situation. So again, appreciate everybody. I'll get in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. And until the next time, hail to the Commanders and peace.